This is a story of a weak orphan boy in a new world with E-rank skills, who was abandoned by everyone, but he surprises everyone by taking revenge on them. Tuka Mimori had a tough life, getting abused at home by his mother's new boyfriend after his father died. He was beaten every day and barely got enough food, hiding in fear while his mother ignored his cries. He grew up lonely, weak, and lacking confidence. One day, he woke up from a nightmare of his stepfather beating him, only to hear Oyamada, the class bully, teasing Ayaka for reading girly novels. Mimori wanted to stand up for her, imagining how it would happen in a TV show, but he knew in real life, nobody on the bus would care and he might just get beaten up. Most popular kids supported Oyamada, and the others laughed to avoid trouble. The teacher was useless, asleep at the wheel as Oyamada harassed Ayaka for her phone number. Suddenly, Mimori stood up, facing Oyamada and telling him to leave Ayaka alone. Oyamada laughed and called him weak, but then Kirihara, the popular guy, told Oyamada to give the book back to Ayaka, and he doesn't care about Mimori at all. Surprisingly, Oyamada obeyed and returned the book to her. Mimori was puzzled why Kirihara helped Ayaka, which is something unusual for him, but before he could think more, everyone on the bus was transported to a different world. They all stood there completely shocked, in a place they didn't recognize, with a beautiful goddess standing on a bridge introducing herself as Goddess Vicious. She explained that whenever a demon king threatened their kingdom, the Alien's kingdom summoned brave warriors from other worlds to protect them. 200 years ago, the kingdom of Aliens faced near destruction from the demon king. Thanks to some heroes, they defeated him and wiped out his entire army. Now, with the demon king resurrected, they had been brought to this world as new heroes destined to defeat him and save the kingdom. The students were utterly confused, wondering if they were dead or if this was some kind of prank. Their teacher quieted them down and instructed them to listen to what the goddess had to say. Mimori looked around at the ancient architecture, the soldiers in armor holding spears, and the goddess with her golden eyes, then pinched himself to check whether, if he was dreaming or not. Kirihara spoke up, asking the goddess what would happen if they refused to cooperate. Vicious smiled and explained that she wouldn't be able to send them back to their world. Kirihara asked if there was any way to return, and Vicious replied that a reverse summoning ritual could send them back, but they needed to kill the demon king to obtain a special item called the evil element, which would be dropped upon his defeat. Oyamada yelled at Vicious for bringing them to a new world without their consent and refused to help. Vicious knelt down and pleaded with them to save her kingdom from destruction. Ayaka voiced their doubts, saying they were just humans who couldn't do much. Vicious reassured them, promising they possessed abilities they hadn't yet discovered. Oyamada still thought it was all a joke, so Vicious decided to prove it with a prisoner of war and a giant demon dog. She released the giant demon dog, which immediately attacked and killed the prisoner. Some of the girls were horrified and fell to their knees, while Vicious chanted a spell that engulfed the monster in flames, completely destroying it. She then called the students forward to measure their hidden abilities. After some students were tested, Oyamada approached the crystal, and as soon as he touched it, it glowed bright red. The goddess smiled and said he had A-rank skills. Next, Kirihara stepped up, but when he touched the crystal, it glowed bright gold before exploding. After him, Ayaka went forward and also turned out to be S-rank just like Kirihara. As more students tried, another girl also revealed to be S-rank. Vicious explained that having even one S-rank individual was very rare, but having 3 was extraordinary. Finally, Mimori approached the crystal, but when he touched it, it glowed dim purple. The goddess didn't pay much attention and moved on to the next person. Mimo tried to ask the goddess, but she ignored him completely. He walked away, realizing that even in this world, he was destined to be a background character. After that, Yasu goes up to the crystal and discovers a special dark ability within him, similar to a powerful hero from the past who became the strongest. Finally, everyone checks their stats as the goddess explains that each person has a unique ability. Then, she calls Mimori to the front, and a guard pushes him forward immediately. She sends him down into a dark pit, the lowest rank in their group. Historically, those with E-rank skills have caused trouble and are often put to death. But this time, with so many amazing heroes around, she gives Mimori a chance to save his life. He will be sent to the abandoned ruins, a distant dungeon where criminals and monsters are sent. She tells him that if he survives, they will leave him alone and let him live. Otherwise, it's the end of the road for him. Mimori tries to argue, but the goddess tells him he's in the failure and abnormal category, meaning his stats are so low that no amount of training can improve them. He gets angry and tells her he didn't choose to come here, he was summoned against his will and now they're discarding him. Kirihara interrupts, saying he's wasting everyone's time, especially since the girls are tired. Everyone agrees with Kirihara, and Mimori sinks to the ground, feeling defeated. When Yasu approaches him, the goddess apologizes, saying she didn't mean to hurt him. Yasu, however, rebuffs Mimori, reminding him that as an E-ranker, he should show more respect to his superiors. Mimori loses all hope as the goddess starts the ritual and tosses him a leather bag as his special item, which turns out to be completely useless. Ayaka tries to defend Mimori, saying it's unfair to him, and he is also a part of our class, but goddess shuts her down. Frustrated, he raises his arm and uses his E-ranked skill paralysis, but the goddess easily stops that. Kirihara also casts a spell, conjuring a huge fireball, explaining it was just a small demonstration of mana use. Everyone laughs at the vast difference in power between Mimori and themselves. Mimori bows his head, tears streaming down his cheeks. He remembers how he used to cry when he was younger. Suddenly, something inside him urges Mimori to stop pretending to be good and show his true nature, the feelings he's suppressed for so long. He looks up with eyes filled with anger and tells the goddess she's wicked, warning her to watch out if he survives. Immediately, he finds himself in a dark cave. He tries to check his status but struggles due to the dim light. Then he put some mana into the leather bag and the gem started glowing. He used it like a lantern while walking through the cave. Suddenly, he saw skeletons under his feet and got scared. He wondered what had killed so many people. Suddenly a monster attacked him. He narrowly dodged it and ran away. The monster chased him as he ran with all his strength. He thought about fighting back but he knew that the monster was too powerful. Fear overwhelmed him, and he started crying. He felt a terrible feeling and fell down. As he looked back, he saw the monster ready to kill him. Frustration and fear took over. Just as the monster was about to strike, he tried a last-ditch effort and cast a paralysis spell that petrified the monster. He quickly got up and ran to the end of the cave. There, another bird demon approached him, clearly intending to kill him. Mimori lifted his head and said firmly. He cast the paralyzed spell again, freezing the enemy once more. He realized it wasn't just luck, his spell actually worked. Feeling tired, he checked his stats and saw his mana was almost gone. Knowing he had one more MP left, he tried a poison spell on the monster. It worked well, making the demon turn black and bleed. Sitting on the cave floor, Mimori wondered why his spells were so effective against these demons. Suddenly, he heard something behind him. He turned and saw the Minotaur monster had broken free from the spell, ready to strike him down. Instead of running away, all the anger from those who had mistreated him surged through Mimori. Even though he was completely depleted, he raised his arms towards the demon. Determined to fight for his life from now on, he challenged the demon to face him, unsure if he would survive this time or not. Mimori remembers how the goddess had treated him badly, his tough childhood, and all the times he had been betrayed. Through gritted teeth, he promised himself, I won't die here. I'll survive. I'll make them all regret mocking me. Mimori realizes that he had used up all his mana on the goddess, the Minotaur, and the bird demon, and twice on a light gem. Now, he had no mana left except his own inner strength. He worried if he used too much, he wouldn't have enough left to escape the ruins. When he tried to use paralysis again, a message said he couldn't use the same skill twice in a row on the same target. Unsure what to do, he put the Minotaur monster to sleep and then used poison. Each spell he casts made him more tired. With more bird demon coming toward him, he knew he had to give everything he had. He wondered if he would run out of strength before he could defeat them all. Casting paralysis over and over, Mimori started to feel himself losing consciousness. As more monsters came, Mimori was reaching his limit. Just when it seemed too much, one of the bird demons he poisoned earlier finally fell. He got a huge level up and his mana instantly refreshed. With a grin, Mimori realized that he could now handle them all. Using Paralyze on the charging Minotaur, he knew he had the upper hand. With each successful use of Paralyze, his skill improved, now allowing him to freeze multiple enemies at once. He hadn't failed to afflict any monster, except the goddess. Moving swiftly, He poisoned all the paralyzed monsters, leveling up that skill too. Mimori had turned the situation into an leveling ground for him. Checking his status screen, he saw his level multiplying his base stats, giving him an extraordinary amount of mana. As more monsters fell, his stats continued to grow. The entire floor was being cleared out, and Mimori's level was rising rapidly. As Mimori delved deeper into the ruins, he also improved his ability to put monsters to sleep. Feeling more confident about surviving and getting revenge, he prepared to confront the next group of monsters. Just as he was about to face them, the creatures suddenly trembled in fear and ran away. Searching around, he found a skeleton and gathered what he could, silently praying. Up ahead, powerful monsters guarded their territory among many dead bodies. Hungry and desperate, Mimori hesitated, wishing for food. Remembering the monsters he defeated, he reluctantly turned back, his stomach growling. Trying to eat from a minotaur, he found its armor too tough. He focused on its eye, despite the acid, but when he took a bite, he spat it out. It was inedible. Surviving in this dungeon seemed impossible for him. Just as despair began to set in, he noticed the gem on his bag changing color, revealing a surprise: beef jerky and a can of Coke. Surprised by the bag's magic, Mimori wondered if it could provide more. Days passed together as Mimori navigated the ruins, mastering even the most dangerous floors and leveling up quickly. Among his victories, memories of his tough childhood unexpectedly surfaced. He vowed to seek revenge against his father for his harsh beatings. His aunt and uncle had offered some comfort, providing him with a taste of a normal life, but he had hoped to learn kindness from them, a hope that was never fulfilled. As Mimori moved forward, he no longer hesitated to kill monsters for revenge. He accepted this change in himself easily. As he continued, the monsters posed no threat to him anymore. But things changed when he found a gem on a door. Using his mana, he opened it and found a skeleton holding a letter. The letter revealed the skeleton was Anglin, once a great sage known as the Dark Hero. The goddess had mentioned him, saying his aura resembled Yasu's. In the letter, Anglin explained how the goddess had sent him to these ruins when she no longer needed him. His final words advised anyone who found the letter to take his belongings if they wanted to escape alive. Mimori found it ironic how the goddess had summoned them to destroy the evil of the demon lord, yet she seemed more evil herself. He had no plans to save this world. To him, they were all evil forces. In Anglin's bag, Mimori found a book containing knowledge of forbidden arts, including recipes for medicine and magic tools, and scrolls of forbidden spells he couldn't understand. Suddenly, he found a bloody page with a warning about the Soul Eater. As Mimori searched for an exit to the surface, he realized he needed something specific to open a door. Even the Dark Hero, considered the strongest, couldn't defeat the Soul Eater. Mimori wonders whether he can be able to defeat that monster or not. Turning a corner, he came face to face with a pale creature with a gem on its forehead called Soul Eater. Mimori tried to use Paralyze, but the Soul Eater hit him with a beam first. Recognizing the danger, Mimori considered leveling up more. Suddenly, the walls behind Mimori burst open, and the Soul Eater approached him without attacking. Instead, it spat out some type of pink substance like slime, and summoned defeated adventurers, finding Mimori reactions amusing. Breaking through another wall, it laughed with its eyes wide open. Mimori tried to paralyze the pink substance warriors, but couldn't bring himself to use poison, because it looked too much like humans. Overwhelmed, Mimori started crying, realizing that the Soul Eater was feeding on his fear. It enjoyed seeing him helpless. As the warriors surrounded him, Mimori begged for rescue, pretending to be desperate. But it was all an act. He secretly paralyzed the Soul Eater, waiting for the moment it let its guard down, thinking it had won. His acting seemed real, because he had played the innocent boy for years, in front of everyone. Mimori used poison, slowly destroying the Soul Eater's monstrous face. As the Soul Eater perished, the souls of the fallen adventurers were released, praising Mimori for his bravery and thanking him for freeing them. The Dark Hero asked Mimori to take care of the goddess Vicious. That had been Mimori's plan all along, to make the evil goddess pay. Inserting the crystal into the door, it finally opened. After a long time trapped in the dungeon, Mimori finally saw the light and escaped. While the rest of the class is busy, trying to complete the goddess's tasks of killing monsters, Kirihara goes ahead and levels up to 18, and Yasu is having a great time. Meanwhile, Kabato is struggling to defeat even one monster. That's when Asagi steps in. She thinks that because of their different abilities and personal egos, they might split into groups soon, and she wants Kabato to join hers. Asagi tells her that if she can't contribute with her skills, she might as well be a monster herself. As an act of kindness, Asagi's followers capture a monster and forces Kabato to defeat it, to pass the goddess's test, so she doesn't end up like Mimori in the disposal ruins. Kabato feels sorry for the monster, and tears start welling up in her eyes. This reminds her of the time when Mimori saved an injured cat, making her regret not being able to help Mimori when he was abandoned. Meanwhile, Ayaka finally wakes up after being knocked out by Goddess. She quickly goes to the goddess, who pretends to feel sorry for her and Mimori, saying that abandoning Mimori was Kingdom's policy, and it was beyond her control. The goddess then explains the task of defeating monsters, mentioning that many heroes have already refused, resulting in their disqualification and forced to leave the kingdom. She says it's a way to eliminate the weak. Ayaka, upset by the goddess's methods, shows her disapproval, but the goddess remains unaffected, telling her to accept it. Determined, Ayaka suggests taking on the responsibilities of those considered useless, offering to work for their place, and requesting to let them to stay. The goddess finds this idea interesting, and suggests shaking hands as a sign of goodwill, and an apology for treating her badly earlier. Ayaka shakes hands with the goddess, later noticing how cold her touch was. Meanwhile, there was a girl near Mimori's ruins, running from a group of mercenaries, called the Holy Watchers. She left clues behind. As she runs away, outside the ruins, Mimori checked his stats. He had reached level 1789 as an E-ranker, a big achievement. He discovered he could now cure paralysis and make his poison less deadly. Excited to try these new abilities, he goes deeper into the woods and saw some slimes attacking a smaller one. Just when it seemed hopeless for the little slime, it fought back. Mimori intervened, paralyzing all the bigger slimes. Intrigued by his newfound powers, he let the larger slimes go and reassured the small one, promising not to harm it. Impressed by its courage, he lifted the paralysis, and the little slime timidly followed him. Feeling a connection as both were outcasts, Mimori felt reassured, knowing someone had his back. In a book from Anglin, Mimori found a spell to empower monsters. Before using it, he explained to the slime that he was on a journey for revenge. The slime vowed to stay with him no matter what. Then, Mimori names slime as Pigimaru. Meanwhile, the girl in the woods, chased by mercenaries, tried to escape. With no other option, she decided to confront them, drawing her sword and preparing a spell to boost her strength. But before she could act, the mercenaries found Mimori. Mimori pretended to be scared of them. He begged for mercy as they threatened him and spoke of breaking the girl's spirit. Irritated by their arrogance, Mimori decided to step in. With a trembling voice and raised hand, he begged for mercy, but the mercenaries remained unmoved. They already decided to kill him. Mimori quickly cast Paralyze, silencing them instantly. He then used poison to deal with the mercenaries. Sensing another presence nearby, the girl, who had run away from the mercenaries, was scared. She slashed through the bushes, only to find it was a diversion, as Mimori paralyzed her from behind. Once immobilized, Mimori introduced himself as an outsider and asked if the mercenaries were her companions. After releasing her from paralysis, she admitted they were hunting her, and was amazed to hear that Mimori had already dealt with them. Sensing no harm from her, Mimori seized the chance to ask about their location and other details. He also inquired if she could read an forbidden script he found. She recognized it, but couldn't read it herself, mentioning a witch skilled in forbidden magic, who might help. Mimori asks where he could find her. She says that the witch is now exiled from her homeland, and now lives in Golden Demon Zone, in Middle Continent. Grateful that Mimori saved her, she offered to repay him, but he declined, saying they were even, and suggested parting ways. As he prepared to leave, Slime caught up with Mimori. Mimori explained he only killed according to his own rules, and asked his partner to keep watch, in case the girl followed him. Meanwhile, in the city, there was a large bounty on the half-elf Princess Cirrus, the girl Mimori just met. If you like this video, please subscribe my channel.